I figured I could finally unblur my background because now it's painfully obvious from the several times I've been interrupted that I'm working from home today. Sometimes I record from home, sometimes I record from my lab at KPC. Usually if I'm at my lab at the college, I'm doing research in there, meeting with people. And so I oftentimes find that I'm scheduling my lecturing during hours that I'm at home. But anyways, so we've talked about three words: land, tourism, and culture, and I've talked about some of where we're going with this course. And when I say some of where we're going, though, I should point out that I will be adjusting somewhat where we're going based on your own input. And so I'm really excited to have read over your assignment ones, and I will be using that input as part of how I shape this course. But that's, at least before I'd read your assignments, kind of some of the directions I thought I was going to go with this course. I want to talk about now about a fourth word. And that word is learning. It's not a part of the course title, but it's a good word. We're going to learn some stuff in this course. And as we learn this stuff, as I've kind of touched on in the last video, a lot of it gets pretty philosophical, right? How do we make place? What is culture? What is identity? But I want to emphasize, as I try to do in all of my classes, that I do not just want to get into philosophy or high-minded concepts, but I would like to actually help you get jobs and make money. You are human beings that need food and homes. And you're investing time, and most of the time money as well, into this course. So I hope to at least give you some things that will be useful. One of the things that you'll be doing that I think is most useful in this course is the end of term project, that research project. There will be a few assignments that work up to that, including an outline and responding to a peer's outline. The response to a peer is actually an important part of this process because we often do projects alone in college, but in reality, you'll find that oftentimes your work, if you go into anything sort of land management or anything sort of applied anthropology, as most of you are, that a lot of times you work on teams. You do your individual parts, but then you report back to a team. Let's, for example, a research project I'm on right now, we meet once every couple of weeks and talk about our individual parts. And people might tell you, hey, look at this thing, or hey, have you thought about this thing? So that's part of the idea of the peer responses. I'm trying to kind of give you additional experience with working on a team. And the project itself is sort of you presenting the various impacts of on a piece of land of tourism or some other activity, and some of the motivations of it, as well as sort of how we might plan well in the future for that land. I'm trying to give you some practical experience with what it's like to do the kinds of things that we often do in sort of the environmental land management world, as well as in the anthropological worlds, sociology worlds, urban planning worlds. A lot of what we do, a lot of our work ultimately comes down to how do we manage land well, particularly considering the human element. And so the project is designed to help you with that and to give you that kind of a job skill and something that even potentially you could kind of show in a portfolio or something during certain kinds of job interviews, or at least mention to an employer as like, yeah, here's an example of a time I did something like that, a hypothetical something, but a something nonetheless that might be sort of something that differentiates you slightly from another applicant. So that project is not meant to be busy work or just a way for me to give you a grade. It's meant to give you to help you further develop skills you've been sort of developing all the way along in college. Also, just as always, effective communication and effective research, two skills whose importance cannot be overstated and cannot be practiced enough. On those lines, I kind of made this chart here to give a sense of sort of some of the different people we have in our class, some of the different lines of work they're going into, and how I see this as relating to their line of work. Not everybody maybe is going into a line of work, right? We have people, for example, that are perhaps approaching retirement, or people that are stay-at-home parents, or a variety of other things. But for folks that are going in, that are wanting to use this coursework towards a career, first and foremost, if you're going to work in tourism, I hope you see that this class is immediately relevant. It's going to talk a lot about the impacts, positive and negative, and hopefully help you be better at making sure that you do your work well in a way that helps communities and the land rather than harming them. But also, for example, folks that might not think of themselves as involved in tourism, I could see this having a lot of relevance. Archaeologists, people that work for tribes as historic preservation officers or culture experts, people that go to work for museums. Giving you better perspectives on archaeological heritage and on protecting sites and on telling of histories, continuing themes from other classes you've taken, such as our excellent archaeology classes with Diane Hansen, kind of bringing up some of those same themes, perhaps from a slightly different angle. For folks that are going into land management, environmental realms, which is several of you, partly because Dr. Van Nalen has been emphasizing my course and advertising for it, which thank you, Dorn. But anyways, for those who are going into land management, those who may be coming at it from more of an environmental studies background, I think you'll see, and we're actually going to have someone guest lecture to us later in the semester that'll talk about this. You'll see that a big part of managing the land is managing the people, figuring out how to help people interact with the land in a responsible way so that they can experience it and have that beautiful experience, but also treat the land well. So we'll talk about that, and I think that'll be really, really relevant to you, and I think you'll really like that guest lecture that's coming up. And then for applied anthropologists, generally, this course is going to help you just better understand humans, specifically looking at us through our connections to land, our connections to culture, and our connections to traveling between different lands and different cultures. By the way, as I look at your assignment ones, I notice a couple of things, one of which is that about 50 out of 50 of you, about 50% of you are people I've had in previous classes. For those of you, I am honored that you chose one of my classes again, and I hope to show you some new stuff in this, as well as reiterate some earlier themes, and I hope you find it to be a good experience, and I'm very excited to have you in class again. For folks that haven't had me before, I hope you know that I freaking love teaching and that I'm going to try to make this class a class that is very much worth your time. When you look at our majors, we are diverse, as we always are, but perhaps less diverse than my courses usually are, with about 70% of people, if not 80, being either anthropology majors or anthropology minors or part of an interdisciplinary degree, such as social sciences, but with an anthropology emphasis. So we have a lot of people here for whom the anthropological way of approaching these topics is going to be pretty familiar. And so for those of you who that's not your background, I think you're going to do just fine. But if it is your first anthropology class, and if you ever find that I'm using concepts or terms in a way that's different than how we use them in everyday conversation or in the field that you're a part of, and if it ever gets confusing at all, please do reach out to me. I want to make sure that it works for every single person in the class. I notice as I look at the responses that we're diverse in terms of people's cultural backgrounds, in terms of the age of people, in terms of people's personalities, in terms of how much experience you have around the world. That's great, makes for a better class. I'm really excited to learn from you. A little bit about myself. One thing, I apparently only have one shirt, since today I'm wearing the same shirt that I'm wearing in that picture. Another thing, I'm not cool. I do try to be cool. I often have memes in my lectures. I try to use cool lingo, but the fact that I just use the word lingo probably tells you that I fail most of the time. I am not very cool. Never have been, really. I wasn't cool in high school. I don't think I've gotten any cooler in the last 20 years. Just trying to do the math in my head. Also, I'm not great at math, apparently. But I am somebody that loves teaching. I am a cultural and linguistic anthropologist who also does a little bit of work in archaeology as well, particularly in site management. I feel very, very strongly about treating the land well and using anthropology as part of that, and about treating other people well and using anthropology as part of that. Part of treating other people well is making sure it's a practical course for you. I have done several projects where tourism well, let me put it this way. A lot of what I do has to do with environment. And so really all of my projects that I've ever done have had to do with land. Most recently, I'm studying the history of salmon fishing on the Kenai Peninsula, as well as cultural contexts of it. However, going back like 3,000 years. However, in addition to environment broadly, also this idea of tourism has come up a lot of times in my research. My earliest project, like I said, had a lot to do with the effects of a ski resort on a sacred mountain. More recently, I've studied Latter-day Saint historic sites. I did research on air pollution and childhood asthma air pollution and perceptions of the environment in a place called Denton, which it kind of sort of tried a tourist town. I am currently working on research again about salmon fishing in the Soldotna Kenai area, which of course has a heavy tourist presence. So tourism keeps happening into my research, whether I mean it to or not. So I feel well qualified to teach the class, and I hope you find it to be so. Finally, let's review the syllabus, which we all absolutely hate, but has to be done. So first, let's go to Blackboard. I say it absolutely hate, but there's always like one person who loves the syllabus review. And if that's you, then you're about to have a lot of fun. But this is our Blackboard. As you'll notice, we have a Start Here page. We have an introduction to myself. One of the things I note on that is that I'd really like everybody to get A's and B's in this class. So if anything's affecting your work that I should know about, just reach out. Okay, just reach out. Just email me. Let me know. Have a link to the syllabus and the basic structure of the course. As I note on that, basically the structure of the course is it's all in Blackboard. You have readings each week. They're always online. There's no textbook. You have lecture videos each week from me. They'll usually be a lot more interesting than this week. And then sometimes you'll have an assignment to do. There's an announcements page that doesn't really have any announcements yet. The syllabus page, we'll get back to that in a minute. And then weekly modules is where you find all the readings and all of the lecture videos. So for example, here I've got the lecture reading or the reading for next time, which is from Thomas Thornton, which is Introduction, Place, and Can Get Senses of Being, which is a great reading. It's going to help us think a little bit about things like placemaking. One of the things you'll notice is that this is slightly reading heavier than some of my other courses, but still perhaps not as heavy as some upper level courses that you might get used to. I generally try to keep readings manageable because I'd rather you read a little bit and understand a lot than read a lot and understand very little. But there is a bit more in this class than some of my other classes, just by nature of the fact that we're kind of at a very upper level class and just, you know, in general, we're dealing with some complex concepts, but I do try to keep the readings at a manageable level. And if you ever feel like they're not, please do let me know. Here's assignments. You'll see that the first one is introductions and goals, and then you don't have one for a while other than tests. Tests can be found here, or rather the first test can, the other tests I haven't made public yet. They're always short answer and essay based. So basically the way this will typically work is you will have like 3 or 4 short answers and then sometimes a longer essay. It's not timed and it's open Blackboard. You can use this stuff on Blackboard, but you can't email with each other or use anything that's not in the Blackboard shell like Google or other books and stuff. If you have an exception to that, let me know. For example, if you're like, there's this one book I want to draw on, but hopefully you just know enough about the book that you don't have to like literally look at the book while you're taking the test. But generally it's open Blackboard, but you can't use anything else, any other kind of outside of class source unless I explicitly approved it. So those are the tests. There will be 3 of them. And again, they're mostly short answer with, and sometimes an essay. The essay though, I want to emphasize, by essay, I mean like 3 paragraphs or maybe even 2 paragraphs. I don't mean like 5-paragraph essay that is terrible. Contact instructor, I've got my email address there, my office phone. Email is really a better way of getting in touch with me, honestly. I will try to get back within 24 hours. If you need it faster than that for some reason, like maybe you got kicked out of a test or something, write urgent in the subject line and that'll help me know that your email is urgent. Okay. My office hours are by Zoom, but also if you're here on the Kenai Peninsula, 245 Ward, which is the Anthro Lab in Kenai Peninsula College. It's in that big long building kind of towards the middle on the 2nd floor. My office hours are 11:30 to 12:30 on Tuesday and Thursday, but if those times don't work, I know it's in the middle of a lot of people's work day or school day, shoot me an email. We can find a better time, okay? And then you've got your grades. Let's go to the syllabus though. Let's review the syllabus, everybody's favorite thing. I've tried to make the syllabus more interesting, if not for you, at least for me, just kidding, for both of us, by putting a few jokes in it. You can just ignore those if you don't like those. But anyways, as you go along, a few things to note. First page is basically overview of the course. You've got the course description that you hopefully read before you signed up, right? The thing that's in the course catalog. Course prereqs, there's no prereqs. I said you must be an actual human being and not several raccoons. This tells you the learning outcomes and what relates to that. I note that there is no textbook. Required work, you have the introduction assignment, which you already did. You have the 3 essay tests, which again are more short answer than essay, but there's some of both. So it's kind of short answer and then short essay, if you want to think of it that way. There's the land stewardship project, which I'll talk more about another time, but is a research project where you're going to analyze how certain land gets used. It doesn't have to only be a tourist site. It could be something like a national forest where tourism is just one part of it, but you're going to kind of make recommendations about the site and kind of explore why people use that site, the different cultural dimensions, things like that. You're going to outline it beforehand, quite a bit beforehand, and then you're going to respond to somebody else's. All told, that all works out to about 1,000 points. The tests are 60%, the various assignments are 40%. So it works out to 1,000 points. So 900 above is an A, and so forth. Late work is minus 5% per day late. However, if you need an extension because there's like an emergency or something, or just some kind of really big issue, just let me know and I can often give extensions. I'm fairly lenient with that. If you do get an extension, make a note of it on the assignment itself, so that, because I won't necessarily remember the 30 people I gave extensions to. I may not, don't be offended, but remember your specific extension. I probably will remember, hey, so-and-so's got something hard going on in their life, but I may not remember the specific arrangement we made with an extension. So put a note of that, like, hey, I had an extension of 2 weeks. I'll let you know if there's extra credit. This is a course outline. The idea is that you would do those readings on the line that it's on. So for 123 through 129, make sure you do the Thornton reading and make sure you watch the videos that go with it. Again, if you look at the actual length of readings, it's like 1 week it's 34, but then another week it's 19, and another week it's 27, another week it's 30 and change, 34, but then another week it's 4 pages, and another week it's 21 pages. 20 to 30 is kind of the general average of pages. Okay. Sometimes a lot less, but that's kind of the average. Don't cheat. Don't cheat, don't cheat, don't cheat. I don't like cheaters. I don't want my doctor to be somebody that cheated so they don't know what a freaking appendix is when my stomach's hurting. So please make sure to not cheat. I don't like cheating. And I reserve the right to give zeros on assignments for cheating, as well as to make it a more formal disciplinary process that gets referred to the university, especially depending on the situation. But I do reserve the right to just give a 0 if it's a minor infraction. Class atmosphere. There's going to be some extra credit discussion boards. I don't really like those as like a thing you have to do for assignments, other than the peer review thing in the introduction. For the most part, I don't do a ton of discussion boards in this class, which reflects a variety of factors for this specific class, including that I don't think that would be the most effective way for you to learn to do required discussion boards each week. However, I will oftentimes have extra credit discussion boards that you can do. When you do those extra credit discussion boards, please be respectful to other people. Be a good person. Please also be respectful about any cultures you're discussing, right? That doesn't mean you always have to agree with everything, but just be respectful about it. Pretend like somebody from that culture is in the room looking over your shoulder as you type it. How would you type about their culture? So be respectful. Obviously, don't put advertisements or anything in your discussion boards. Never had that at this university, but at a place that I used to teach, somebody tried to advertise their vape mod one time in the discussion board. So don't do that. Also, maybe not the place for ill-advised rants about political topics, where you go way too far and make it into kind of more of a yelling at other people kind of thing, electronically speaking. If you have a disability accommodation, please let me know as soon as possible. I'd be very happy. 99.9% of the time, those are very easy to integrate into the classroom. With that, With that, we are done with the first lecture. You made it. You survived. I'm super excited to have you in class. Future lectures will be a lot more fun. Bye-bye.